We are back with our good friend from Project 21. He is Horace Cooper, Senior Fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research, who is back in the swamp and he wishes he were back in Texas. Horace, quickly, I have to get your take on these Democrats who are being punished, especially Karen Whitsett of Michigan, who said, coronavirus, I was super sick. The president's cocktail saved me, and she was invited to the White House, and now they want to censure her. I thought the left were the tolerant ones, Horace.
I think it's intolerant.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
It's a silent IN on the word tolerant. That's how it works. And in fact, it's extra dangerous when a black person is saying the kinds of things they don't want to hear.
Because you're not allowed to.
Oh, absolutely. You're not supposed to. This is one of the reasons why I wrote my book, how Trump's policies are making black America great again, because there are many black Americans like these two representatives that see for themselves with their own eyes what's really going on. And guess what? Their party sees it too, and their plan is we've got to shut them down.
Yeah, they got to get back on the plantation or be excised from decent left-wing radical culture. The title of your book again, Horace?
How Donald Trump is Making Black America Great Again.
Fabulous. We first met in terms of work at CPAC before last, where you invited me onto a fabulous side panel on China. I didn't have any special expectations, but it was one of the most substantive things that I was involved in at CPAC. Let me ask you, we've got a couple of minutes left in this segment. I wrote a piece today for Epoch Times on China that I'll put up on our website. What do we have to do differently? If God willing, President Trump is reelected in 192 days, what would you like to see as the priority in terms of U.S.-China policies on day 2 of that administration?
So the left tells us we have false choices. One is we have to go to war, or 2 is we have to appease and do nothing. But actually, we can be smart. We need to expand the CFIUS process so that it includes those kinds of more sensitive industries so that Chinese companies can't come in and purchase.
So this is the ex officio body that is chaired by the incumbent Secretary of State that looks at specific international deals that affect national security. This is how Hillary Clinton okayed the sale of 20% of our uranium to Russia. So that CFIUS body, you're telling me, has to have a broader remit so it can look at things like, N95 surgical masks?
Absolutely. How about investments in companies that manufacture and produce and distribute pork and beef?
Wow.
We've got a Chinese company that came in and said we're going to be a silent investor.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, they shut the facility down because Americans are critical of what happened with the Wuhan virus.
Right.
We don't need investors that come in and say we'll be silent, but then at strategic moment shut down facilities and resources.
To hurt us.
We need to make sure that our transportation, that our energy grid, our technology grid, our healthcare grid, these things cannot be unduly influenced and controlled by companies that had, well before this virus, demonstrated an animus towards us. If you send baby food with asbestos-laden chunks in it as a discount and you sell it in America, that's not friendly. That's not competition. That's not a global partner. Right. That's something that an enemy would do to you.
Yes, unless you listen to Joe Biden. Second, we got 60 seconds. What is the second thing that should happen in a Trump administration? What about the things that China is doing here domestically with the Confucian Institutes, with propaganda, with funding universities up the yin-yang?
Absolutely, these universities ought to be expected to first thing, report every penny that they have gotten. And secondly, we should expand the rule that other countries can't have influence over our education system. It's actually a crime to engage in the lobbying of our system, to engage
Yes.
in the media manipulation. We also should expand that so that you can't do the same thing with our educational institutions.
Which, as far as I'm concerned, is even more important. I mean, forget the obvious thing of lobbying or propaganda in the press. If you're affecting minds, if you're affecting research, if you're stealing research, that has a far more detrimental effect on the long term than anything else. Follow this man at Project 21 News. His latest article at Daily Signal. He is Horace Cooper of the Senior Fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research. Thank you for coming in studio. I'm Sebastian Gorka. We're going to take your call.